Alright friends, today's lesson is about more expressions. We talked yesterday about interpreting division as fractions and reading expressions. So we're going to practice more of that today. So let's do a quick review. Yesterday we learned that a numerical expression is a mathematical phrase that has numbers and operation signs but does not have an equal sign. Let's review some of our vocabulary words. Quotient, dividend, and divisor are all terms that we use when we're talking about division. We have numerators and denominators. And we have remainders. Alright, so remember this problem that we had yesterday. We were talking about these 4 players who were playing cards, and they had a deck of 52 cards, and they wanted to split it equally. So if you remember, I said, well, we could do 52 divided by 4, because that is correct. But we also said that we could take that same expression and represent it as a fraction, because fractions do also equal division. So we said that if we were going to write this 52 divided by 4 as a fraction, then we would get this fraction right here, 52 over 4, 52 divided by 4. So the second number in the word problem becomes our numerator, and the first number becomes our denominator. And remember, we said that the number you are trying, or what you are trying to split up, is going to be your numerator, and how many groups you are splitting it into becomes your denominator. So let's break it down. We have 52 fourths. That was our fraction from before. This is the expression that we had. Now, we all know that 52 fourths is a fraction that is greater than 1. So if I was going to ask you how many cards each person would really get, you wouldn't really tell me, oh, you're going to get a 52/4 of a card, because that really wouldn't make sense. So when we're looking at a fraction that's greater than 1, we know that we always have to try to change it or simplify it to see if we can get a mixed number or maybe even a whole number. So to change a fraction greater than 1 into a mixed number, what we do is we look at our denominator here, and we use division, and we say how many times can 4 fit into 52, which is our numerator. So you might be thinking to yourself right now that you could do this mentally. So let me break it down real quick for all of you guys that can't really do it mentally. We're going to look at it this way. How many times can 4 go into 5? Well, that's once. Subtract. I get a 1. Bring down my 2. 4 can go into 12 3 times, because 3 times 4 is 12. So we actually don't get any remainder here, and it goes in perfectly 13 whole times. So it's going to be important for you to read what the question is actually asking you to do, because if the question is asking you to create an expression, this would be the answer that we are asking for, or what we're expecting you to do. Because remember, expressions do not have equal signs. But if we were asking you to write an expression and tell what fraction each person would get, then I really wouldn't get 52/4 of a card, remember? I would get 13 cards apiece. Alright, so we're going to take this fraction here, 8/15. And 8/15 is a fraction, but remember we also said that we can interpret fractions as division problems. So we're going to look through this A, B, C, D options right here, and we're going to try to figure out which is the one that really represents this fraction 8/15. Well, looking at this right here, right off the bat, I can knock out A and B, because I know that a fraction represents division, not subtraction. So A and B don't even matter in this situation. Now I'm looking at 8 divided by 15 and 15 divided by 8. So I want you really quickly to think back to when we were looking at that 52/4, and we were trying to change it into a fraction, or it was a fraction greater than 1, and we were trying to change it into a into a mixed number, or in that case, a whole number. And so what we did was we took this 4 and divided it into the 52. So we know that 52 is the dividend, and 4 would become the divisor. Now, if I'm looking at 8/15ths here, I know that the denominator is going to be the divisor, and the numerator is going to be the dividend. So if I'm trying to do 8 divided by 15, then C would be the only answer that makes sense here. And so one more thing that I really kind of want to point out is this fraction right here, 8/15ths. Is this fraction greater than 1 or is it less than 1? Think about that for just a second. So 8/15ths is less than 1 whole. Now if we did 15 divided by 8, 8 can go into 15 at least one time. It won't go in perfectly, so we'll have a remainder, but 8 can go into 15 one whole time. So this answer really wouldn't make sense, because if we know that 8/15ths is less than 1 whole, if it was 1 and a remainder, that does not make sense. So even if you could not remember which of these, the numerator and denominator, which was the dividend and which one was the divisor, if you really thought about it, C would be the only answer that would really make sense. All right, so take a minute. We have our fraction here, 4/12ths. And I want you to look, A, B, C, or D. Which one of these expressions is equivalent to this fraction right here? All right, so you've got your answer here. Let's look at our choices. This one is very similar to the last problem that we solved. We know that the denominator in a fraction will become our divisor, and the numerator will become our dividend. So we have 4 divided by 12, which means the only answer out of A, B, C, and D that would make sense would be A. Great job. All right, so we're going to solve using word problems. So we have 12 friends here, and they're sharing 4 bread rolls equally. What fraction of the bread rolls will each friend get? So we're wanting you to write this in as a fraction. So I have 12 friends, and I have 4 rolls. All right. So think about this for a second. If I have 4 rolls, so I'm just going to draw my rolls here. They look more like loaves of bread to me. And I have 12 friends. Can each of my friends get their own loaf of bread? No, because we only have 4, which means that they're going to be getting less than 1 whole loaf. If they're going to be getting less than 1 whole loaf, do you think my fraction would look like this? Think about it for 1 second. All right, hopefully you said no, because this fraction, if I really tried to figure it out, 12 divided by 4 would give me 3. So I know that not each of my 12 friends can get 3 loaves to themselves, so 12 divided by 4 would not make sense. So that leaves me with the fraction 4 over 12, or 4 divided by 12. So let's see if this works. I have my 4 loaves of bread here, and I'm going to split them into pieces of 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All right. Give me a second. I'm going to pause the video real quick and do the other ones. All right, so I cut up the rest of my rolls. I cut it into 12 pieces. All right, so let's say I'm one of those 12 friends. And I know that I'm just looking at this loaf of bread right here. In this loaf of bread, if I have 12 friends and I'm one of them, that means that if we were going to split this piece of bread evenly, I can only take one of these pieces. And then my other 11 friends will get the other 11 pieces. So now if I have 4 loaves of bread, I can take one piece out of each of these loaves and still leave enough for the rest of my friends to each get their own piece. So if I have 4 out of the 4 loaves, I have one piece out of each of the 4 loaves, and each of those 4 loaves are divided into 12 pieces, then that means that the fraction that I'm getting is 4/12. That's not that bad, right? All right. Let's practice again. If 9 people want to share a 50-pound sack of rice equally by weight, how many pounds of rice should each person get? We're going to take the second half of that question in just 1 second, but first I want to get the first part out of the way. So I have a 50-pound sack of rice, and I have 9 people that want to share it. So remember before we said in a fraction, the denominator is how many times or how many groups you need to split it into. I have 9 people and a 50-pound sack of rice. Go ahead and pause the video and figure out what is the denominator going to be. How many groups am I splitting this into? Okay. So I am splitting this between 9 people, which means my denominator is going to be 9. And my numerator is how many items or how much stuff I have to split up. I have a 50-pound sack of rice. So that means my denominator or my fraction is going to be 50 ninths. All right, so it's asking me how many pounds of rice should each person get. So I know that to change this from a fraction greater than 1 into a mixed number or a whole number, I don't know which one it's going to be yet, I have to use division. So I'm going to take my denominator, I'm going to divide it into the numerator and see what I get. Pause the video, figure this one out, and tell me what you get for your answer. Alright, so hopefully this is what you got. 9 cannot go into 50 evenly, so we are going to have a fraction as a remainder. But 9 can go into 50 5 whole times, because 9 times 5 is 45. Now, I know my denominator is going to be ninths. So if I had 9 times 5 equals 45, but I needed 50, that means I have a remainder, or I have a leftover of 5. So each person is going to get 5 5/9 pounds of rice. That's the first part of our question. The second part of our question says, between what 2 whole numbers does your answer lie? That means if I'm looking at a number line, where is 5 5/9 going to fall? So I have my number line here. I have a 5, a 6, a 7, and an 8. 5 5/9 would fall between the 5 and 6 because it's more than 5 holes, but it's not enough to be 6 holes. So the answer to the second part of that question would be between 5 and 6. All right, it is now time to go to the quiz on Canvas to show what you know. Take your time, use your notebook if you need to, and good luck.